indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Kelly, would you please take the roll call?
Trustee Bradall,
Here.
Trustee Brocchini,
Here.
Trustee Doggett,
Here.
Trustee Steele,
Here.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, the district digitally records the audio and video portions of the meeting. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, your microphone will be muted. Okay, report out on closed session topics. The board met in closed session regarding public employee performance evaluation, superintendent, and no action was taken. Okay, item 7, approval of the minutes for March 31st. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of March 31st, 2021? And I'll go down the order to see if you have any questions. Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Brocchini?
No questions.
And Trustee Steele?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 31st, 2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Kelly, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item 8, approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from the section and placed on the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
I would ask that we pull out H, which is the intra-district open enrollment policy, please.
Okay. And does anyone else have any questions? Trustee Doggett,
No questions.
Trustee Brocchini,
No questions.
Trustee Steele,
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda with the removal of item H? Okay. I'll motion to approve without item H. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh,
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, now we'll address item H, 5116-1, interdistrict open enrollment policies. Dr. Olson?
Right. So I'm happy to bring this. I apologize for the mistake. Is that when we posted the agenda on Friday, on page 9 of the exhibit and the waitlist order, is that there was not a strike through under out of district students. When it was discussed and presented for information at the previous board meeting, Dr. Carrillo definitely presented that as that, and that was struck out at that point, but in the one that was posted, it was not struck out. So we did replace it with the proper one. But in terms of a vote for intra-district open enrollment administrative regulation and exhibit, we would that out-of-district students do not participate in the wait list. So we want you to be aware of that as you take that vote today.
Okay, are there any questions regarding the administrative regulation on inter-district open enrollment policies? Trustee Burkini,
No questions.
Trustee Steele,
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos,
No questions.
Trustee Doggett.
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the administrative regulation and exhibit for 5116.1 inter-district open enrollment policies? Kelly, can you take a roll? Oh, do I have a
Sorry.
motion? Sorry. Jumped ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Thank you. Trustee Burdell,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
While we are at the end of that consent agenda, one of the things that you did was that you approved our personnel changes, which included our new director of special education. And if I could just take a minute to introduce him to you, I'm going to ask our moderator or Will to elevate him as a panelist so that we could see his camera and his microphone. But in my previous district, we have not done this at all during COVID time, but it is an unusual thing to hire someone in such an important position and for you not to be able to see or hear from him. And so I just wanted to introduce you to John Bartfield. John Bartfield was a colleague of mine in San Mateo, Foster City, when I was a principal, and we had a hard case, a couple of hard cases in special education. They would bring in John Bartfield, who was the lead school psychologist at that time. And then he became the director of special education, and he is a trusted colleague, and we were really very lucky to get someone with his experience. And so I just like to have him introduce himself and say a couple of words for you before we transition on to the next thing. Hello, Mr. Bartfield, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olson, and good evening, Board of Trustees. I am truly honored to be joining the Pacifica School District as the next Director of Special Education and Student Services. And I'm very excited and thankful for this opportunity to work on behalf of the students, families, and staff of this very special Pacifica community. And as we are rebounding, as we're starting to rebound from this year-plus-long pandemic, I know there are challenges ahead. And I look forward to working with my colleagues in partnership with our families to provide the best outcomes for our students. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I can't wait to get started in July.
Thanks, John. All right,
Welcome.
take it away, Ms. Burdell.
Welcome. Okay, item 9, communications. Okay, speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken for 3 minutes, your microphone will be muted. LSCA?
Good evening. LSCA is pleased with our safe return to school. It has been wonderful to see students back in classrooms. Teachers are working harder than ever as they are now teaching and preparing asynchronous learning while also teaching in person. We are tired yet hopeful as LSCA and the district will be moving forward with interest-based bargaining. As we haven't had a pay raise since 2018 and we are working harder than ever, we are hopeful the district will work with us to do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay, CSEA?
Hello, my name is Nicole Sayers, and I'm the president of the CSEA. First, I would like to thank every school staff who helped to make April 19th, our first day back, such a success. I was at Sunset Ridge, and it was cold, but the smiles were warm. So there we go. Next, I want to thank Trustee Brocchini for attending our last month's meeting on April 14th. We welcomed her and she listened to the members' comments and concerns. She gained further information about the maintenance department and other departments. Education is the key, and we thank her for coming. I need to say something about the comments that were made at the beginning of the last board meeting on March 31st by Trustee Brocchini regarding the maintenance department using Ace hardware too often. As the community heard her concerns, I would like the opportunity to offer the community our point of view. The crew that works within facilities maintenance department includes senior maintenance workers, and maintenance workers / groundkeepers. Combined, these job titles must have knowledge in school grounds and equipment and building trades. Some of these trades include experience in plumbing, painting, carpentry, sheetrocking, auto mechanics, tile work, door hanging, roofing, and much more. All the members of the facilities maintenance department are skilled workers in many different trades. In the last few years, the crew has gone from 1,000 outstanding work orders down to just over 100. The maintenance department is understaffed at this moment with only 4 crew members and 2 groundskeepers. The current crew has been working hard to complete as many projects as they could before April 19th. Every day, the crew members collect supplies they think they will need to complete their work orders for that day. What is unknown is whether or not the job will be as expected, or if it will end up being bigger than expected. When they open a wall or attempt to make a quick fix, it is common that they are faced with a larger issue than anyone thought. We are fortunate, actually, that there are 2 hardware stores in Pacifica to utilize when this happens, as it cuts down on time taken to retrieve the materials needed. To some, it may feel like the crew is being excessive in the amount of times they need to go to the hardware store, but some of the work orders that they need to fill are unknowingly excessive as well. The facility maintenance department is always faced with keeping our facilities safe, clean, and places where students are to learn. They have done a great job, and CSEA is very proud of all of them. We see them as important, reliable, helpful, and essential. We need these people every day. CSEA invites all Board of Trustees to take a day or an hour to shadow maintenance or any other CSEA member as they do their jobs daily. We invite you to see what it's like to walk in our shoes. As always, I know that if we work together, we will be able to build a stronger school community. I just want to say one more thing. CSEA is having a fundraiser at Luigi's on Monday, May 3rd. We would love to have you there. They open at 3 o'clock, and this fundraiser runs until 3 o'clock till closing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And for people wishing to address the board, we have Natalie Abenante.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Nicole just said. So I want to give voice to some history of this district that seems to have been forgotten. Our district has a lot of history, and it's important for you as the board to learn and listen to those histories before you ask questions at board meetings. When asking questions without knowing the history, your questions can cause harm to the people who work here. In the past, our district had at least 7 maintenance people. We're now down to 4. It does not include the groundskeepers. When we had 7, each one was specialized and had their van prepared for whatever specialty they had: plumbing, painting, flooring, whatever. Now each maintenance person has to cover multiple specialties, and we are very lucky that we have such skilled staff members who not only have those multiple specialties, but have also managed people and jobs in other parts of their lives. Because the vans can no longer be stocked by specialty, our maintenance people often have to try to prepare for each of their work orders before they head out for the day. Those work orders often change as the day progresses, or get more complicated, as Nicole said. Our maintenance staff are an integral part of our community, and they consistently go above and beyond what they're asked to do in their desire to support our students. Each of our schools was built in a different year, and therefore have very different parts needed for similar jobs. From Ocean Shore, a trip to Ace Hardware to get the correct plumbing part takes 5 minutes and supports a local business. Even if the district office was fully stocked with everything they may need at any time, which could be insanely expensive, that could be an hour trip instead of the 5 minutes. Our maintenance staff have been working extremely hard to make it safe for our students to return to campus. It was frustrating to hear their work being questioned by the board. This is one of those things that could have easily been solved with a simple conversation with people who know the history and know what's going on a day-to-day basis. Those people are on site and they're maintenance staff. We want to talk to you. Come ask us these questions. Let us give you the answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Frank C.
Hi, I'm a senior maintenance worker, and I was kind of upset about this when I first heard it, but I'm kind of overwhelmed with all the support that we're getting. In the last 6 months, we went to the hardware store 72 times, not 80 times in 2 months. So that works out to 12 times a month, which works out to 3 times a week. That's in a 6-month period. That's not in a 2-month period. Okay. It's kind of interesting that people are getting these facts and numbers incorrectly when all I had to do was go onto the warrants and look them up. It's something that's public transparency, so it's there for everybody to look up. If you're curious about it, please do that. I urge you to look at the warrants, and I urge you to look at where our money is being spent. We've got a lot of good people working in our department. We're trying very hard to keep up with what's going on with the pandemic. A lot of times things change from day to day. We've got a huge amount of work that we still have to do because our system is so old. We have windows up at Sunset Ridge that need to be fixed. We have screens that we spent the whole week replacing screens that we didn't know was going to come up to be an issue because we didn't know that the windows were going to have to be open all the time. So the teachers wanted their screens put in. So we've been working on that. We've been going to the hardware store to get the screen material because ordering it online, it takes about a week for us to get those parts in. So are we supposed to sit there and wait a week and have the kids in the classroom with the insects and bugs flying all over the place? No, we go to the hardware store, we take care of the situation as it arises. The same situation has occurred with the plumbing situation with water fountains. All the water fountains have to be capped off. That means the water has to be turned off, and that also means that the fountain heads have to be capped off. Do we wait till we get parts in? No, we go to the hardware store and get them, because that was one of the mandates, was that all the water be turned off to the water fountains. You know, it's been said that our vans are not set up for each one of the trades anymore because we all share in what we do in the trades. It's kind of unique because usually the person who does that particular trade is specialized and can do the work very quickly. They have the parts in their vans. A good example of that was at Sunset Ridge. They called us and said there was a smell in the library. We went up and checked it out, and lo and behold, it was an electrical problem. So I called the person who usually does electrical stuff. He came up, we went up and we fixed the problem. We were lucky that he had the parts in his van from the past. If he had not had those parts in van, it probably would have took us another day and the library would not have been able to be used at all. So I urge you guys to please come and talk to us. If you want, call me. George has my phone number and he will give it to you if you want it. And I will talk to you personally about the situations that have come up. I urge you to talk to us. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone else in the Q&A. So correspondence. Dr. Olson, do you have any correspondence?
I do not have any correspondence.
Okay, board superintendent communications. Would like to, Trustee Villalobos, would you like to go first?
Sure. I missed last meeting, so I hope I get everything from the past 2 months. One of the things that I've been doing with Elizabeth is working on the land acknowledgement, which we're going to present next month, I believe, or just have discussion about it. And it's really a lot of thought process. I know I'm probably being too hard on it, but I just want to make sure that we say the correct things. I also attended the reopening panel for the teachers in, I think it was San Mateo County, or it might have gone outside of San Mateo County, and just listening to their experiences on the reopenings that they had. I also attended the American Indian Children's Literature webinar for educators, and just learning about how reading the stories that Native American authors write could be a learning experience for all children. Also, I did the site visits at Ortega and Ocean Shore School. The site visits were around the COVID and how the safety was going to be, you know, going this direction, being 6 feet apart, all the dots. I was very impressed with all the thought that went into it. And I just want to thank the task force. I know it was difficult, long, but there was, you could tell that there was a lot of care that went into that. I also attended the back to school night for Ocean Shore School, and for some reason I couldn't log into Ortega's. I also received a lot of letters about the Ocean Shore play structure. I want to say over 13 or 14 parents wrote letters and their concerns about that not being available until next summer. And also, I did receive an email from CSEA surrounding what we just talked about. And I think that's it for the past 2 months.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Doggett?
I did do several things, but I don't have anything I really want to report out at this time.
Okay, Trustee Brocchini?
Well, let's see. I did a walkthrough at Valamar pre-return to school, and everything looked great over there. I attended a return to school night, the 5th grade at Valamar also, and just kind of got to listen to what parents were concerned about as they went back to school. So that was good to hear. I went to the first day of school for the B group over in Ortega, and everybody over there was doing a great job. Tanisha and Mr. Jackson and oh gosh,
Miss
why am I
Hannah?
forgetting?
Miss Hannah?
Miss Hannah, I'm sorry, Tiffany. Yes, Miss Hannah. Are just a well-oiled machine, and they did a great job over there getting the kids in, and it was just nice to see smiles on kids and teachers, and so that was really went well. I did attend the CSCA union meeting. Yeah, the funny thing is, you know, I made an observation about charges and the hardware store, but I never did actually isolate any one person. But I did find out that it has to do with 6 people in the maintenance department. So CSCA informed me of that. So there were some concerns about just making sure that some of the processes that are happening in the district office are maybe streamlined, or just kind of a review of some of the processes. And there also, it was brought up that, again, the concern, which we've heard before, is about hiring subcontractors for the special ed department, but I know that's something we're working on. And so those were things that were brought up. I also attended a webinar from CSBA about expanding broadband throughout the state. And I'm happy to say San Mateo County is leading the way in that area. And it's just an effort to try to get internet to every single household in the state, and then eventually nationally. So that was a good meeting. And that is it for me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Steele?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough. I did sub in the classroom for the Jefferson district all of last week for some teachers who didn't make it back. So to be in the classroom and to actually see the kids, it was a very, yeah, you could just feel the sort of a weight off of even their shoulders, despite being masked and socially distanced from their friends, just to, to have 50 kids on campus, it was a turning point. So it was very nice to see. So yeah, it's optimistic from here on out.
Okay, on my list here. So since the last meeting, there's the regular elected official calls for San Mateo County, which is always, quite informative. And I guess their main thing is we probably will not be going to the yellow, probably not before we even get up better in June. Yes, we kind of went a little bit in the wrong direction this last week. Right on the edge of yellow, but not there yet. Attended the virtually the Earth Day program on the Albatross, and also the AAIP March that was organized by Andy Lee, who is from Jefferson Union High School District Board of Directors, and County Supervisor David Canepo was also there participating. Had the first day of school, which of course was great at Sunset Ridge, and then also at IBL. And the kids were very excited, even the little ones that had never really been on campus before. So they were finding their way just fine. And also there was a webinar on race, culture, and the special needs community that was held by Kalima Salahuddin, which a lot of people here in Pacifica know, and also her son, Kareem Tulek, who is autistic, and he gave a very good presentation on his point of view and just trying to be in his world and how he deals with different daily challenges. And it was really a great program, and I think they're going to have a series on wellness. And so anyone who gets a chance to join that, I would definitely recommend it. And Dr. Olson, did you have any communications?
I just will talk about my first, I'll say my thanks for my COVID presentation, but I was at Sunset Ridge with the youngest students on the 19th, and it was great to be there and to see the happipiness in kids' faces and even behind the masks. And then the following on Thursday, I was at Ocean Shore for 4th through 8th grade students. I was mostly at the gate with the oldest kids, and their excitement was a little more reserved than the youngest students, but they were still happy. And when asked what they were most excited about, it was seeing everybody that they were excited about. So I think the staff was overwhelmingly excited and super happy to be back. As someone said, it's so much more rewarding to teach kids in person.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have item 10 coming up, presentation. Mental health and social emotional support in the Pacifica School District, and that would be Dr. Carrillo.
Thank you. We'll wait for the screen to open. Thank you. Well, good evening. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to provide you with another update on such an important topic that has really continued to be one for our community from the summer to as we return to school. And tonight I plan to update you on some of the social emotional wellness supports and initiative that we've had available to our students and how our staff have been working very hard to address these needs during such a traumatic school year, hopefully unlike any other we shall ever see again. So I just want to remind you about something you've heard us mention before, but it's really important to remind everyone that, the mindset of our students, staff, and our families matters a lot. And this was critical prior to the pandemic. It's increasingly essential to be addressing the social emotional health of our community during this pandemic that we've been out of school. And even more as our teachers have been able to welcome our kids back to in-person learning. These are so important that they've been outlined by our board and part of our LCAP goals and now in our priorities as we've returned to school. When students feel even more isolated, given the constraints of our distance learning, it's important that our teachers have been equipped with support and resources to really help identify students who are the most at risk or near risk, and also at the same time meet the universal needs of all of our learners in every classroom. This is a process that we've been working on and fine tuning all year, and this will continue as we carry into the next year. So I want to just share with you a system of support that you have seen before, and just remind everyone that depending on who our students are at our classroom, where they are, depends on the various levels of support that we have available to them. And as I share these with you, I just want to note too how the landscape of our classroom changing, in the fact that teachers are now reaching students virtually still, but some of them are also coming back to them in person, and how that really dramatically changes the way that a teacher can engage a student. You know, the way in which our staff can so cleverly and use their craft to teach, but also just to observe some of student behaviors, whether they may see a student sitting alone at recess, or they may notice somebody a little withdrawn and not engaging in conversation. These are behaviors that are really difficult to see through a screen. Yet despite that, I think our staff have worked tirelessly to establish and foster relationships with students that are authentic, that are genuine, and still create that sort of trusting relationship in which that student can turn to that trusted adult. So it's with great intention that we are continuing to equip our staff with these resources to address where each student is at. All of our classrooms look a little different, and in each one, we want to make sure that there are those levels of support. So as you can see on the diagram, I've noted here the various ways that we're supporting all of our students. This would be considered the ways in which our students are receiving support through our new social emotional learning curriculum, Caring School Community. And that is something that all students are receiving. And hopefully the majority of those students receive that support, and that is sufficient for them. In some cases, there are students that are at risk, meaning they need more targeted support. In those cases, we would engage specific teams, such as our social emotional wellness team, our SO team, that these are more some of our mental health therapists, our psychologists, our counselors, who meet and offer expertise, offer consult to teachers, to staff, or meet individually with students. And they are a way to help really track particularly attendance records, be able to be that resource that we can go to for students that we have that concern about. And then certainly there are other students, the smallest percent of the classroom, that would be what we consider the high risk needs students. And those are those that may qualify for mental health counseling through their individualized education plan, or related behavior services as well. So we really want to make sure that we're seeing that all of those supports are available to our students. And so, as I mentioned, the various levels of support for each of those tiers, I mentioned the SEL curriculum. I also want to take a moment to really acknowledge something called Care Solace, which is something that we've had available to our students and our staff. And that really is a concierge service, if you will, that partners our staff with our families or students if there was someone who exhibited the need for some kind of care or counseling. That can be a difficult process for people to navigate. It can take time, it can take a lot of energy. And when somebody is in the middle of a crisis or experiencing that need, that's a difficult piece to navigate. And so that's where that support with Care Solace has come in to provide that. It's been something we've heard positive feedback about, just in terms of its efficiency and the way in which it's helping navigate a process that would have been perhaps burdensome and even preventative from allowing that care to or therapy to ensue. We also have relied on some of our partner agencies, such as the Youth Service Bureau and Star Vista, where we utilize their support to help provide services to various students. Again, that would be in sort of that at-risk category where we would want more targeted support. When we think about the students, or what that support actually looks like, just in terms of numbers, I want to give you just general numbers or data related to that. Certainly, these are very conservative figures, because in many cases, if there were, say, a counseling session offered, that doesn't always mean that it comes with consent. So perhaps a member of our SO team would reach out to a family and offer that support. And sometimes there is consent given, and sometimes there isn't. So, and each site obviously has varying differences. So one is such example of a way in which we're able to keep record of the number of sessions and students that have been served is, for instance, in one example, some SO team members have provided at least 602 counseling sessions. Those sessions have provided support to 77 students. In addition, in another case at another site, we had 27 students that were referred to for counseling, of which 20 agreed. And out of those 20, 140 sessions. So just in those very rough conservative estimates, again, that's a total of 742 sessions offered and engaged, where our SO team members were engaging with students at that level. And again, I just want to mention that's obviously through the lens. These have been virtual sessions. In some cases, they have been in person with safety precautions enabled. And that's been when that seems suitable for that sake. So it's been with great intention, a lot of collaboration, teachers reaching out to their SO team leads, their principals, their counselors, people they see to just say we're worried about the student and we want to engage with them. Another piece I just want to remind you about is our Caring School community. This is, we were the recipients of a grant enabling us to receive this curriculum in January. It's something that I know I have heard from principals and teachers, their eagerness to roll that out with fidelity in the coming year, especially as students are returning back to school, and the resources that that curriculum provides to help facilitate restorative circles, and the way in which we're continually leaning on our district and staff experts who have great expertise with facilitating those things. I also want to note that it's important for our students to receive these. It's also important for our staff to be receiving those supports as well. And our team that had been meeting back from when the task force started over the summer, it was our wellness team and their focus. It was a group of teachers. It was a group of some administrators and other mental health experts that just felt really passionate about providing that support. And from that really came a structure in which staff were able to meet and gather virtually to provide those supports as well. I think it's just important to note that the mental health of everyone involved, our students, every staff member and family member. And I just want to acknowledge the work of all the staff that have gone into supporting these students and each other as staff members. It's been inspiring to watch the way in which they've inspired how they have, in fact, just today was a support circles facilitated by that wellness team, in which they are reaching out to one another, noting that mental health, as always has been and increasingly now, an important need for everyone in our community. And on that note, that concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions or discussion from you.
Thank you. I can go down the line if you'd like for the trustees. Trustee Steele, did you have any questions?
No questions, more just appreciation. And thank you for all the work during an entire pandemic to keep mental health and emotional from everybody, students and staff, as your forefront and priority. So many thanks.
And Trustee Villalobos?
Mine is also just a comment about the number of sessions that we provided for the students of Pacifica School District. And I'm just curious to follow up on that. How do you communicate that to each of the schools so that the parents know that there's mental health services available?
Sure, I think it depends on what level of support that is needed. Certainly our principals and our vice principals are point people for that. They're very much a part of our SART team, and there's also SO team members that also collaborate with each of those principals in order to say if there were such a like a students study team meeting or an IEP meeting or just a parent teacher conference. where that may come up, that teacher or that parent is able to collaborate with that family member, with that principal, to be able to connect them. It's why our Care Solace team, or sorry, SO team, and our principals received that training from Care Solace, so that they'd be able to be that sort of front person to connect families with that support.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Burkini, did you have any questions?
No questions. I just want to thank you. I mean, I can't imagine a harder year to have to be in charge of the mental health services of a school community. And I think you've done a great job. So, so thank you for your continued help in the district. And thank you.
And Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Okay, and definitely thank you for all the work that you do. And, I know there's a lot involved with the counseling services, even on a normal year. So it's been an extraordinary year, and harder to possibly, like you said, identify the kids through the screen. So appreciate all the work that everyone's done on that.
I would just like to, I don't think we've spoken about it publicly, but our staff wellness circles was identified as a Kent Award winner and will be recognized not this upcoming Friday, but a week from, around each school district is recognized for a unique practice. And our staff wellness circles came right out of our return to school work groups, identifying that you have to take care of yourself first before you will be able to help others. And we're really proud of that work because it was completely staff generated and staff led. And so recognizing that team, and we want to celebrate that.
Thank you for that acknowledgement, Dr. Olson. I want to second that as well, and just really, I'm really the vehicle of information. I really want to, give my nod to those that have been working and delivering these services, working hard at each school site, and also to acknowledge that though the landscape has changed, as I mentioned, and will continue to change as things and people and pieces return to in person, the work is still going to continue, and the need is still very great. So it's going to be something that, I hope, and I think the example of the staff support circles is something that was born out of a very difficult time, but one that could be a beautiful thing to continue for years and years to come.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Okay, we have item B, instructional technology presentation by Christy Novak.
Hi, can you hear me?
A little louder.
Great. I have a special speaker set up tonight. So as I said, I'm Christy Novak. I'm instructional technology. Sorry, just doing something right here. And I'm here just to give you basically an informational presentation just for understanding of the year that our IT department engaged in, the kind of work that we do, and the work that we're looking forward to do in the future. I'm going to go fairly quick. I guess I'll wait till Will has the slides up. But once he has those up, I'm going to go quick, and then you are welcome to, of course, to ask me any questions afterwards if you want me to expound on anything.
Are they up?
They're
They should
up.
be up.
Oh,
I'm showing
all
them
right.
up.
Oh,
Yeah, they're up.
all right, pop out screen. All right, I just like everything and everyone has said, this year has just been unlike any other, and I get the opportunity to work with many different folks in the school district, and it really gives me a lens of just all the amazing things and how people came together this year, and it really does make a difference. I do want to acknowledge the small IT team that we do have. It was just unbelievable, their positive attitude, all the things that occurred this year. We've really come together to make a positive, collaborative, problem-solving team. I also want to give a shout out to our site library media technicians. I have the privilege of working with them as well, and I have in the past. Amazing group, a delight to work with, and just super collaborative and also positive, and really just were important in helping us this year. Next slide. So these are the 4 general areas in which the IT department focused on this year. Slide. So just so you are aware of the current roles that we have, they're listed here. In reflection of the summer and fall, that was surreal is really the word that keeps coming to mind. I just recall day by day, hour by hour, and it was, the focus was, completely on, access, helping staff, students, parents, anybody needed to get on, access devices, maintenance, troubleshooting, all of those things. So that was our main focus in the fall, as well as working to update certain key features that were needed to support the distance learning that was occurring. Next slide. So one of the things in the fall is we had an open network analyst position. So we did start those interview processes. And through those interviews, our IT technician ended up applying and transitioning into that role through interviews. And then we had to go and do interviews for our IT technician position at that time. During that time, the network analyst continued his role as the IT technician because it was really important to have someone with boots on the ground. And we were able to have some extra help with the more complex network needs at that time. So that was kind of going on in the background as well. And also during the winter and spring, the projects listed here seem high level, but they were also larger projects, a little bit more complex projects. We were just moving forward in continuing the organization and updating and the evaluation during that year and during that time period. Next slide, please. So in general observations through this upcoming year, these were some that have really come to light. I'll highlight a couple. Technical debt, the definition is basically if something breaks or has an issue and you create a quick workaround or put a Band-Aid on it, right, just to get it up and running, that's great. But if you don't go back and actually address that problem and find the root cause, and that happens over the years, much like debt, right, it accrues over time. And then that can have a greater impact on your systems and your infrastructure or network. It can also impact if you're looking to work on a project, and then when you go to do it, all of a sudden you realize you have to do 4 other things in order to just get to that project. So it was deemed that we had significant technical debt in our network and in our infrastructure and in our systems. The positive thing is with the upcoming technology bond scope of work that we're doing on the physical infrastructure side, that technical debt will essentially be erased. The other point that I do want to share is just the growing complex environment that an IT department has to deal with in a school district. It is not the same as 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or honestly, 2 years ago. The responsibilities have increased, the complexity of integrations and the needs of how technology works together. Cybersecurity is paramount now. Rules and regulations has really increased over the years. And just to give the board and those who have not been necessarily in our district for a while, in the past, a couple of years ago, we actually did have another IT person in the IT department. That individual happened to move away out of state and they were never replaced. So I want to make you just aware of that as well. Next slide. Looking forward with a cute graphic. Next slide. So these are the 4 areas that we are looking to continue to work on in the future over the next year or years. Next slide. I wanted to give you a quick update on the technology side of the Measure O bond, and thank you to the city of Pacifica and their taxpayers. I'm so grateful that we have this money to be able to do this work. We're in the RFP process right now, which is going great. Everything's going really well. We'll be bringing on the June 30th the approval of the contract after going through this process. And that will then enable us to start the work in the summer. Currently, the scope of work that we do have identified for these two areas is currently slated to be completed by December of this year. Next slide. So I've talked a lot about technical and back-end areas, but there's also the learning side of things and what occurs in the classroom and the goals that we want to see and how technology can really create a positive experience for our students and our staff. So the role of an IT department is to support the mission and vision of an organization. In our case, it is to support our LCAP. We have our LCAP, a 3-year one that we're working on to finalize right now, or any other initiatives that a district may choose to focus on. So with that, that's why you want your infrastructure to reflect that. You want your systems or your programs to reflect that, or the learning and the type of education and professional development that can help support those goals identified by the district. A district technology plan is a support plan that is aligned with your LCAP. So it's a supplementary document. We had one in the past, and then after regulations went away, the prior superintendent did not have that continue. We've had a document that was really more about equipment cycling, which is not really a technology plan. So by doing this, that's really going to help with that continued alignment of the goals in the district. Next slide. So again, based on evaluations and the experiences and observations of this year, it is recommended that there is a systems review in the future with regards to the other side of IT. So again, we're working on the infrastructure and the hardware, but the systems, and I'm defining that as major platforms that might relate to data or communications that staff, families, and students might use. This would be just a very high level example of how you go through such an evaluation process. So that was just to explain that. Next slide. So why review? Our needs are different. Our needs are different from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and honestly, from the past year and a half. Things are not going to be the same going into the new year. We're 1-to-1 in our district. That in itself kind of changes the landscape of what can happen with learning. We have more integrations, and we have also just more experiences that teachers have had that are going to continue. The ideas of blended learning, the role of that, even when you're in person, and really how you're able to support equitably our different populations of students across the board. And so if your systems are not optimized and playing well together, that will continue to pose challenges and barriers for staff, students, or families. Next slide. So just some current needs that have already been identified, and likely there are more, but really this idea of having multiple forms of data in a more consolidated system, the ease and access of which folks can actually access it versus going to different places. On the back end, again, integration and automation is key and vital in order for things to run smoothly. And then just greater efficiency that across multiple departments. So I heard the topic of systems come up in other processes, and there has been an observation, with multiple departments and how work flows. So IT is just one department, but you have business department that flows into the IT department. And then that flows, into the school sites and how they interact with the business department or other departments, et cetera. And just the amount of manual work that is going on is not necessary. And so that is part of the reason and need to really just evaluate how we are approaching certain things. One example would be, as Dr. Creo has brought up in a past presentation, she's mentioned enrollment, registration, and lottery, right? That's come up in the past. And so that would be a perfect example of how can we really improve those processes that is going to benefit multiple folks in the district. And that is it for me. Thank you for your time. I hope that was useful, and any questions that you might have.
I have a question, since you brought it up right there at the end, is what is the probability that we can computerize or, whatever our lottery system, and how long would that take?
So the probability is very high. You can absolutely go to an online environment for all three of those areas. One of them might be still a separate, lottery is a little separate still as far as a program, but there are things out there that we have been starting to look at. And then as far as registration and enrollment, absolutely, that is already part of something we could do and is involved in systems that exist. Based on the timeline that I've kind of drafted out in thinking about this, being thoughtful and going over this upcoming year and going through that process, I feel confident that we could, after this year, implement something. I did try and consider how is something we can do something more quickly for next year, but it would be a little too challenging. And I think, again, you just want to be thoughtful on how you are going about doing it. You are making transitions that impact different stakeholders. And so you just want to make sure that we're just doing that thoughtfully, but I would say within a year.
To be just kind of forward with the information is that as we explore all of these technology efficiencies, one of the things that continually comes up is our student information system and how they integrate with other processes. So that will be something that we'll be looking at the next year, which for a district is a big move, but I think it would probably take us up to the next level to allow us to do some more integration. Good question. Thank you.
And just to check if anyone else has any questions, Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Trustee Steele?
No questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Christy, for your presentation and all the information and all the work you've been doing, especially with distance learning. That's a lot of it's been a lot more on you this year than usual.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, item 11, district business, district goals. The district values goals provided by our local control accountability plan and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board item. Details for each of these district goals can be accessed on our district website at www.pacificasd.org. Okay, item A, COVID-19 update and return to school instruction update. Dr. Olson.
Perfect. I will start off by thanking our parents and our families for their patience while we waited for our staff to have the access to vaccination. It made all of the difference in terms of our return to school, because I will say to you that all of our employees returned to school. And I know that that's not necessarily the case in other districts, and people felt great about returning to school. So I do recognize that it would be maybe a week or two longer, but it really did make a difference for our staff employees to come back feeling confident. I want to thank the 50 people that were on the Return to School Task Force. We often met from the fall on January, February, March. We have one more meeting in May, but a really good group of people that gave detailed input in terms of how we would return to school. So thank you to that team. I want to thank our cabinet team and our principals to get from when we decided that we were going to return to school to being able to open safely. There were so many decisions that needed to be made and just a lot of work. And I applaud those principals for rolling up their sleeves and getting that work done. And then we want to thank the leadership of us, both CSEA and LSEA. Again, many conversations that needed to happen. And then all district employees are really, from the very bottom of our heart, thank you for the work that you've done to return us to school safely. It's great to see the smiles on staff face as well as students' faces. So thank you very much for all of that. Just have some updates, kind of beginning of schools and the information as I know it, as we know things often change. So we'll scroll through quickly. That's the opening gate at Sunset Ridge. Notice the snowflakes that could be flying from the air. Keep going, Will. Here's welcome back to Valimar Stallions. Keep going. At Ocean Shore, two things here. If you didn't fill out the survey online, you could fill out, just complete the survey just verbally. And also we had a parent that helped us make the QR codes so that if a parent wants to take a picture, snap a photo of that, you can just fill out the survey right there on your phone. Here's a classroom at Cabrillo with the two desks are right next to each other, but they have a fake student sitting next to them. Keep going. And here's one of the most beautiful outdoor classrooms on a beautiful day. This was when it was warm and we were wearing shirt sleeves, but the hay bales provided allow kids to sit outside. Keep going, please. So just kind of as a reminding people like why the hybrid format and why are we returning is that the two primary goals is one is a safe incremental return to school following our approved plan. So 2 days of in-person instruction and then ultimately preparing for a full reopening in August. Would you mind moving your arrow just a little bit so that it's not in the middle of the screen? Thank you. So we have approximately 2,000 students in the continuum model. 17 students moved from full year distance learning into the hybrid, which meant they signed up for full year distance learning, but they wanted to return to in-person. And then we had about 20 students moved from hybrid into a full year distance learning. So they said that they weren't coming back. Then we had about 100 students that were not quite ready to return, but they didn't want to leave their classroom teacher. And so if we look at that, they are continuing to do distance learning through their asynchronous days, 3 days a week. And they're working on a grade level banded project that would allow them to complete the school year with their classroom teacher and their classmates. So every day, for about 30 minutes. They are virtually connecting with their teacher and their classmates, and then they're completing work as part of a project. We'll keep going. So just information, we try to update the superintendent's message with the weekly message, but there's a whole lot of information over here on the left-hand side. So some are our official plans. But also each site made a return to school procedure. So if will keep scrolling down at that return to in-person instruction. Here's the district district site, and up in the upper right hand, if you could pull down just slightly, upper right hand under that home, each school has their own procedure page. So we'll keep going, Will. And so here's Valimar's, is that they've got the site plan, the daily schedule, and that's where parents can also go to fill out the daily health questionnaire. It may seem a little bit pedestrian now at this point, but the reality is that before school started, people had thousands of questions about how everything would be handled. What gate will we go in? Which bathrooms will we use? And so this platform just gave each school site a way to communicate that, or a place for parents to go for one-stop information. Next slide. So I'm going to keep going, scrolling through some updates. So number one is that in starting the 4th through 8th grade with B on Thursday, the 22nd, is that gave that group 3 more days, the B group 3 more days. So on Friday, May 28th is going to be an A day for the 4th through 8th grade. So the A students that are in the A group will attend school on the 28th in 4th through 8th grade, and then they'll also have that second day on the 1st of June. So the 31st being Memorial Day. The people in the B group still have 1 additional day, but it's not 3 additional days. Keep going. So I want to share with you the information that I have right now. The hard part is that this may or may not be true, right? Is that none of them are lies, but I'm just going to kind of set the stage for what I know. But as we know with COVID, things change. So I know that in August, kids and staff will be wearing masks. We will still be doing contact tracing, because one of the most important things for student safety or staff safety is being able to, if there is a positive case, really kind of stopping that so that it doesn't get transmitted at school. I expect, although I have, don't have evidence of this, but they'll be working on vaccinations for 12 through 15-year-olds at that period of time, maybe in the fall. I know that they're working on vaccinations for students up to 16, and then after that, we'll probably look at vaccinations for 12 to 15-year-olds. At this point, those would not be required of students, just like they cannot be required of staff because they were authorized under the emergency use authorization. But just like we know that the vaccination of adults have made a major impact in terms of reopening schools, that I believe that the vaccinations for students will also have a big impact. So what is not known is in August what the requirements will be for physical distance between students. Right now, the requirements are 3 feet between students and 6 feet between adults and students. But I don't know in August what will be that. So we can plan for at least 3 feet at this point, although that could change. The requirements around stable groups may also change. I would expect that maybe the physical distance and the stable group part could be eliminated, is kind of a suspicion that I have as schools reopen. And then what we have always talked about in terms of distance learning and thinking that that was going to be a part of our life, at this point, that SB 98 will be expiring at the end of June, and that the support for distance learning would happen only through independent study. That it would not be, that we would not offer full year or even half year distance learning, just because it wouldn't be a part of the ed code or the laws. So let's keep going. So I've already talked about this, is that when we think about returning right now, is thinking about 3 feet of distance between students, thinking about class size of around 28 between 4th and 8th grade, is that seems to work with 3 feet, very tight 3 feet, but that we need to look at purchase of single desks. And so that's predominantly for the older students, but there are a number of kindergarten classes that share tables, and we may want to look at single desks for those as well. So that's what we're planning for right now. We just got out of an 8th grade promotion ceremony, graduation ceremony, and we plan to have that at Terra Nova, and that we would have 4 graduation ceremonies. We're hoping that that there were just a couple requirements, is the capacity. We're going to have household family members. There would be a limit to the number of family members that could come, but we're all excited about the outdoor venue. Right now, the ceremonies were scheduled for the 10th and the 11th, although we have a request into a local organization to see if in fact, the 9th would be available. Keep going. So as a district, we do need to do CASP testing. I know the state has presented this as all sorts of flexibility, but for us, in-person CASP testing is going to be what we offer. Parents have the opportunity to opt out, and in the past, we worked really hard to make sure at least 95% of our students took the test. That is not the case at this point. There are no requirements from the state. And so we're looking at that in mid-May. We are inviting students in full year distance learning, if they want to come in and take the test, that they may do that. We are not offering the test remotely, so but we want to give everyone the opportunity to take that test. One of the important things that you'll see, and I actually think I talk about it on the next slide, is that one of the biggest questions is really starting to think about what just talking about CASP testing is that some people may say, I really want that information about how my child is doing. That's going to be a really important part as we plan next year, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. So we talked about independent study for distance learning as opposed to a district-run program. We could run that out of our homeschool program, but a San Mateo County School District is looking at providing that at cost. And so if that's the case, and they could have enough students in any grade level, that would probably be a way to go in a far superior way than we would be able to provide that. So we hope that that pans out and that they would be able to offer that, because I know that there are a number of families that are they're not ready to come back to school until the students have had a chance to be vaccinated. So for our small number of students that are, or families that are interested in that, we are hoping that it pans out that the San Mateo, the other San Mateo district would be able to provide that. And that's at cost to the district, not at cost to the families. We will continue to offer our homeschool program because that's something that we've done for at least 20 years. So now we're shifting away from, this may be our last COVID update, because it's really time to shift into the somewhat part. Is now we're back at school, we're looking at returning to school, but we have some plans that we need to bring to you around funding, and it's really how do we leverage that funding to expand the opportunities for kids. So the most important piece is determining student need, is where are our students now? And after being out of school since March of 2020, is looking at an online assessment system that would be both diagnostic and progress monitoring. And there's lots of conversation around learning loss. I suspect that we will have some students that will need extra support, but I also suspect that we have a lot of students that will have made at least a year's worth of growth. And we want to be able to figure out where students are and know what their strengths are and what their areas of need are. And so we would develop our intervention and support based on what that student need is, and that's going to be very important. And so in that is where we look at the expanded learning opportunity plan. And we want to maximize the value of instructional time through some of the mental health services that Dr. Carrillo was talking about. We want to look at attendance interventions. We know that student attendance was an issue prior to the pandemic. We had a lot of chronic absenteeism, and I suspect that it's only going to be exacerbated after the pandemic. And then looking at academic interventions. And then making sure that we do have that option for distance learning for students that are not ready to return. Keep going. This is your opportunity for any questions. I tried to just put a couple of visuals in terms of the work that has been done at the school site. Being able to be in the schools and seeing the teachers and the staff support the students is just really amazing to see. And I know that I am grateful, but I also know that the families have reported that their kids are so happy to be back at school. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, I can go down the list again. Trustee Doggett, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Burkini.
I just had a question about the 8th grade graduation, if we've located, if we have a location yet.
Terra Nova football field.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it. Everything else sounds great.
Okay, trustee Steele.
No questions.
Okay, and trustee Villalobos.
I'm just wondering if we had any reported COVID cases.
We did not have any reported COVID cases.
Great.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you to everybody and all the work everyone did, Dr. Olson and everybody, every employee, every teacher, every staff. It's been quite a year. So hopefully that will be our last report for a while. Okay, we can go on to, let's see, item B, resolution number 2021-04-28-A, requesting Board of Supervisors to establish tax rate for bonds for Pacifica School District. Josie Peterson?
Thank you, Trustee Brudal. Tonight, we are recommending that the Board of Trustees approve this resolution, which would establish the tax rate for Pacifica School District bonds. This is a routine item that occurs every year for school districts that are issuing bonds. The San Mateo County calculates bond rates in the summer for the upcoming fiscal year. So if a school district plans to issue bonds for the upcoming year, the California Education Code allows the district to have the county include an estimate of the debt service of those bonds in the tax rate calculation. The advantage for the school district on getting the tax roll is that the planned bond issuance is that it will allow for earlier repayment of principal because we could get a lower interest rate expense. And it will also help avoid fluctuating tax rates. So tonight we are asking the board to approve this resolution. In the upcoming school year, we will have another resolution asking the board to authorize the next issuance of the Measure O bonds in a future board meeting. That's all I have. If there's any questions.
Yeah, I can go down the list. Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Okay, trustee Steele?
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Okay, trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2021-04-28-A, requesting Board of Supervisors to establish tax rate for bonds for the Pacifica School District?
I will make a motion.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do I have a second? Trustee Villalobos, would you like to be the second? Okay. We need a verbal on that one. Okay. And Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Brudal,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item C, resolution 2021-04-28B, Day of the Teacher and Teacher Appreciation Week, and resolution 2021-04-28-C, Classified School Employees Week. And Alexis O'Fleury.
Thank you. In acknowledgement of the important service provided to our students and families by Pacifica School District's dedicated teachers, certificated staff, and classified school employees, it is fitting that the month of May be declared and celebrated as School Personnel Appreciation Month, allowing the many members of the school, district, and larger Pacifica community to thank, acknowledge, and honor the individuals who engage in the noble work of nurturing, taking care of, and educating our children. During the past year, staff members have completely shifted gears and provided distance learning opportunities to our students. We want to acknowledge the incredible work our staff have provided to our students this last year. Our staff have stepped up in more ways than we could ever anticipate, and we so appreciate all of their efforts. It is with pleasure that these resolutions are brought to the Board of Trustees in acknowledgement of the many important contributions made by the teachers, certificated staff, and classified school employees of the Pacifica School District on behalf of all of the students and families. I welcome the Board of Trustees and cabinet members to join in reading the resolution, one paragraph at a time. We will begin with the resolution 2021-04-28-B, Day of the Teacher and Teacher Appreciation Week. I will start. Day of the Teacher and Teacher Appreciation Week. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that
Whereas the Pacifica School District Board of Trustees acknowledge and appreciate that teachers have worked harder than ever to adjust to distance learning and hybrid expectations during unprecedented and challenging times, and
whereas the Board of Trustees recognize the tireless dedication of our teachers who prepare outstanding lessons, collaborate with colleagues, assess student work, provide feedback to our students, and provide our students with the encouragement, support, and care they need to survive. And
whereas the Board of Trustees recognizes today's teachers nurture the academic, social, emotional, and physical development of students preparing the workforce of the future. And
Whereas the Board of Trustees acknowledges good teaching grows in value and pays dividends far beyond the classroom. And
whereas the Board of Trustees appreciates our teachers who strive to create a learning community and facilitates each student's academic and social emotional growth.
Whereas May 3rd through May 7th, 2021 has been designated National Teacher Appreciation Week, with May 4th, 2021 proclaimed as National Day of the Teacher and May 12th, 2021 as California Day of the Teacher.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District proudly proclaims its appreciation for the outstanding performed each and every day by the teachers of the district who, through their gift of teaching, enrich the lives of all their students.
and this would be regularly passed and adopted this 28th day of April 2021. Thank you for your assistance on that one. And I now would like to focus on resolution number 2021-04-28-C, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that
whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, country, and world. And
whereas classified employees are the backbone of our public education system, and
whereas classified employees work directly with students, educators, parents, volunteers, business partners, and community members. And
whereas classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety and maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students. And
whereas our community depends upon and trusts classified employees to serve students, and
whereas classified employees with their diverse talents and true dedication nurture students throughout their school years.
now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District hereby recognizes and honors the contribution of classified school employees to quality education in the state of California and in the Pacifica School District, and declares the week of May 12th through the 22nd, 2021 as Classified School Employee Week in the Pacifica School District.
and regularly passed and adopted this 28th day of April 2021. It is recommended that the board approve resolution number 2021-04-28-B, recognizing May 3rd through May 7th, 2021 as National Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4th, 2021 as National Day of the Teacher, and May 12th, 2021 as California Day of the Teacher, as well as resolution number 2021-04-28-C, recognizing May 16th through May 22nd, 2021 as a Classified Employee Week.
Okay, are there any questions regarding this resolution? Trustee Steele?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
And Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Okay, no question. Just thank you to everybody, to all they all deserve our appreciation all the time, not just 1 week out of the year.
Do you have to take a vote?
Yep, so.
Okay.
Yes, we do. Kelly, can you take a vote, please?
Sorry, can I have a
Oh,
motion?
well, listen, okay. So I got thrown off by Dr. Olson. Okay, do we have a motion to approve resolution 2021 -04-2A? Oh, nope, wrong one. Okay. 2021-04-28-B, Day of the Teacher and Appreciation Week. And resolution 2021-04-28-C, Classified Employee Week.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take a roll call vote?
Trustee Bradal,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item D, Public Employee Appointment, Director of Special Education and Student Services, Dr. Olson.
I think I made a mistake. I think I thought that Mr. Bartfield's appointment happened in the consent calendar as part of personnel changes. And so I apologize for bringing him up here to introduce him to you without before his approval. So please forgive me.
Taking it for granted.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So anyway, you met Mr. Bartfield. As I said, you know, we have been really very thankful for Julie's, Dr. Carrillo's work in a rare time of starting in the mid-pandemic with us. And special education has been an area that's been greatly affected by both distance learning and the pandemic. And it's been a lot of getting to know people and putting in place processes. And we are very, very grateful for all the work that she's done in both special education and student services. And we also completely understand her interest in staying home with the cutest guy in the whole world, Otto. And so in doing that, we had the opportunity to hire, and I recommend to you a trusted colleague from San Mateo Foster City, John Bartfield.
Okay. I don't think we have any questions. I'll go down the list anyway. Trustee Villalobos, any questions?
No questions.
Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Burkini
No questions.
and Trustee Steele?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve Public Employee Appointment, Director of Special Education and Student Services?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Bradal,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
I can't believe that I did that in consent.
Okay, item E, Outdoor Education Contract 2021-2022. Will Lucy.
Hi, very excited to put in front of you a recommendation to approve the outdoor education, the 21-22 outdoor education contract with San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools. Just a little background here, as you know, because we were in this pandemic, we weren't able to this year have our present fifth graders attend the outdoor education program up at Jones Gulch in person. They did have a hybrid version or a virtual version of the outdoor ed program, but they didn't have that opportunity to attend it in person. And so San Mateo County Office of Education and the Outdoor Ed program in particular had a meeting recently and shared that they were going to attempt to provide enough space and scheduling so that both the 21, 22 fifth graders and sixth graders, this group of students that didn't take it, that they would be able to both have an opportunity to go up to go to Jones Gulch for the outdoor education program. Our funds through the parcel tax funds have been set aside to provide an opportunity for those sixth graders. It comes down to scheduling. The priority is that the San Mateo County and the outdoor ed program will be scheduling the fifth graders first, and then they will attempt to schedule all the sixth graders. But they seem to be optimistic that this would happen. So part of this contract is with the intent of having both our fifth graders and the sixth graders next year that weren't able to attend in person this year go on this incredible program, outdoor education program.
Okay, I'll go down the list for questions. Trustee Burkini?
Well, I did. So I heard you mention that fifth grade gets booked first. So that's a little concerning. I'm afraid that sixth grade might get bumped. So I don't know if we can work on that at all. And also I just want to make sure, because sixth grade, who does the booking on that, I guess? Who like schedules?
Oh, sorry. They are the outdoor education program. So, there's been staff that has been there for years and years and years. In fact, when I was a teacher in Redwood City over almost 25 years ago, the same director is there. On-site director is the same director as he's there now. They have their staff actually does the scheduling. And I know I kind of mentioned that they were going to schedule the fifth grade first and then the sixth grade. That doesn't mean that they're not going to. I mean, I feel very optimistic that there will be spots for the sixth grade. They're just doing the fifth grade first because so that they can ensure that fifth grade class has spots at the times that they would want, the times that they would want. And then when they schedule the sixth grade, I feel optimistic that they'll be able to include both. They just need the numbers from all the districts. And those numbers are going to go, those student numbers are going to go in before May 7th. We're trying to get those numbers to them before May 7th.
Okay, and my other question is, so is it full year distance learning did some sort of science? Because I know Ortega didn't necessarily hop in with that. So I'm just wondering, are we, did full year distance learning get something that the other classes didn't? And should we make sure that when we're scheduling that we're prioritizing the people that didn't, the students that didn't get that option at all?
Oh, you mean Sorry.
Are you thinking about what the classes did now at this point for distance learning?
This current fifth grade, as far as I can tell, there was maybe a full year distance learning science camp that was put on, but I don't know that the people that are at the assigned schools actually had a virtual science camp. Am I wrong on that? Or maybe I'm...
It wasn't through Jones Gulch or even they called it outdoor ed, but it was the teachers worked together to put together a package of activities that kids would do independently outside.
Okay, so this wasn't a YMCA event. This was just a teacher event.
Correct. Correct. Okay. They many of them worked together on it, and it was a great event, but it was not at Jones Gulch, nor was it an official outdoor ed. It was referred to as outdoor ed.
Okay. I just got confused via social media. You know how that can work. Anyway, all right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Steele, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Okay, and I just want to say I think it's a wonderful program, and I hope we can get both the fifth and sixth grade in there. And it's one of my favorite things in the parcel tax, that's all paid for to make sure that they can all attend. And we was also really close with the fires, so we're lucky that we have Jones Gulch to even try to attend. It was really close. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the outdoor ed contract for 2021, 2022?
I'll make a motion to approve the outdoor ed contract.
Okay, do I have a second? Oh,
I'll second.
okay, Kelly, can you do the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdell,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item F, description of the plan of Pacifica School District to serve expelled students in accordance with the requirements of California Ed Code. And it's Dr. Correa.
Thank you. Yes, this refers to a plan that I have shared with you, and it's a plan of which we would very rarely, if ever at all, use. And that's because it has been, there has not been a student expelled from Pacifica School District since 2012. And so that is not a plan that would be used at all. However, the plan that I have presented for you does show just how we would do that should that be the case, and also how we would be able to account for things such as school closures and identifying gaps in need. So happy to answer any questions you might have about this plan.
Just to give you a little bit of context, we didn't believe that returning to school, that it was great, let's quick get our expulsion plan in place, is that the county every 3 years has to update their plan. And so they requested that we bring this, that we update our plan and that we bring it to you for your approval so that they can update their plan. And as you all know from your work with CSBA and San Mateo County Office of Ed, is that expulsion is really the last resort. There are a few circumstances that we are, as staff members, required to bring it to you, but at that point, you all can suspend that expulsion as we work on alternatives for students. So we are doing this as a technical piece that we need to as a part of the plan, but we don't believe that expulsion would be a good alternative.
Okay, for questions, Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Trustee Steele?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the PSD plan to serve expelled students in accordance to the requirements of the California Ed Code? I can motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Sure. Trustee Burdell,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item G, resolution 2021-04-28-D, board compensation for missed meeting. Dr. Olson.
As a part of our board bylaw 9250, a board member may be compensated for meetings missed when the board by resolution finds that that person was performing their designated service for the district at the time of the meeting or absent because of illness, jury duty, or hardship deemed acceptable by the board. And that's a part of Ed Code. And so we would recommend passing resolution for Trustee Laverne Villalobos, who was absent at the March 31st board meeting.
Okay, are there any questions? Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Trustee Steele?
No questions.
Okay, and do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-04-28-D, board compensation for missed meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdell,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Steele,
Yes.
and I believe Trustee Villalobos will abstain. The motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Okay, item 12, board bylaws, board policies, and administrative regulations. Item A, AR and BP 5144.1, suspension and expulsion due process policies. Okay, Dr. Correa.
Thank you. Yes, very similar to what I was previously presenting on is that I would suggest that the board approves the bylaws that have, or excuse me, the updates that have been provided by CBSA in order for us to be compliant with laws and regulations of Ed Code. Just want to mention again, as Dr. Olson said, that these are practices that are used as a last resort, and that other means of correction to correct student conduct are used prior to having those those like suspensions or expulsions enacted. And so it's recommended that we keep congruent with those recommendations. Happy again to answer any questions that you might have about that.
And this is the first time that this has come to you for information, Liver?
It says discussion. It doesn't say
Yeah.
act.
No, we're not taking action at this point. It just this is the first round, and that we would approve it at the following meeting.
I can start for the discussion if you want.
Thank you.
Well, first, there's throughout the context of the board policy, there's little things like kindergarten through 12th grade. All of those need to be changed to K through 8 when appropriate, because they're still throughout the whole document. The other question, this is a question I have, and this is from the CSBA sample board policy for students, suspension and expulsion due process. Let me see where I read it. There is some content in here that discusses that our suspension rate should be in the LCAP. And so I want to just ask questions around that. Do we have our suspension rates in the LCAP?
I don't know that they were in last year's LCAP, but they will be in our current LCAP that we bring to you. Will, were they in last year's LCAP?
So last year wasn't an LCAP, it was a learning continuity plan, so they weren't technically called out there, but in the previous LCAP, the 2019 LCAP, they were in there within the metrics, the growth. There was a metric on suspension and there was a metric on expulsion. And I think we even broke it down by student groups.
Right, and that, it goes into how you're supposed to break it down.
Yeah.
But, we have that one thing that really I don't understand is the number. So if we have less than 15 students, if we have less than 15 American Indians, which we do, we don't report out on that.
Yeah, so okay, go. Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Liver. But we had that came up previously, I think back in 2019, and it came up before that and before that even. There is it's called data suppression, which is that's through the dashboard, which has those numbers in there, and I think it's 11 and under. It's any number below 11 or under. That they don't provide that information out because they're concerned about, it being you being able to identify, I guess. But we worked around that, and we said that what we would do is, even though we would put an asterisk in there, we would still monitor that group. So we wouldn't have a particular number, but we would continue. We would still monitor those groups that had less than 11 within there. So that plans to be continued in our upcoming LCAP.
The other thing that I read in here is that we are to have alternatives to suspensions. And I need a reminder of what those alternatives are.
Sure, there's a list of different alternatives of corrections that that the district could use. Some of things, anything from, again, depending on the conduct, who was impacted and so forth, the scope of others who have been impacted by it, whether it's a whole class or another individual student. So usually there is some sort of a conference between school personnel, and this could include other referrals for various services, behavior evaluations, behavior plans that are put into place, and then alignment with various sort of participation in restorative justice programs, clubs, memberships, particularly for our middle school students. And that's where they would really want to target what that support looks like, but where it's very intentional, and there's a lot of restorative practice that goes into that. And I'd be happy to provide you with more information on that, on more of the specifics. That's just a sample of some.
Right. And so we've basically lost a year. I want to ask a question, and I think it's for Will. I have the last year from June, we did a review of our suspensions and expulsions, and there were 52 from 2019 to 2020 or 2020. And one of the questions that I have, and it would be, how many of those suspensions actually have behavior plans already in place? And how many are already receiving counseling? So of those 52 students, how many were already receiving services, and what services were they receiving? So is there any way you can have that by June?
Yeah, I would have to work with student services on that to gather that information. Now, when you mentioned the number 52, that, it's interesting how attendance goes through like a school year, but suspension information goes from CBEDS day to CBEDS day. So sometimes it's not really representative of, like, for instance, in 2019-20 year, we were shut down in March of 20. So if we go from that October date to October when we were all in distance learning, the number might be a little bit skewed. I don't think it'd be up in the 52 range. It might have been the year before, from the 18 October to 19 October. So I'd have to look at that. So I might not be able to call out those 52 in particular, or if the 52 are inclusive from the 18 to the 19th, then might be able to look at it that way. But I'll have to work with student services to see if plans are in place. I do know that the part of the policy of reintroducing a student back from a suspension is that you have to have a plan for that re-entry back in. And a lot of that is done at the site. It's site-based because it's within the context of why the student was suspended and within the context of those students' needs and supports. So, but I can work with student services to see if I can find something, or not find something, but I can put something together that would I'd be able to share.
Well, I just really like some more information about this, because I'm just going to be honest, it's really difficult for me to approve a suspension and expulsion policy that only serves one group of students in a positive manner. And it's not serving not a large population, because there's not a lot of students, but it's not serving the African American, the American Indian, the Pacific Islander in a proportionate manner. They're disproportionate, and it's by a lot. And so, I can't approve this kind of policy if it's not helping all of our children and addressing all of the children who are having challenges. And so that's why I wanted to know if we're being proactive with some of these children and getting them services before they get suspended rather than afterwards. My other concern was the school climate, because it talks about the school climate in the policy. And so what I'm feeling and reading is that the school climate is not doing well for some of our brown children. And so I'm just more curious about what we're going to do about that in the LCAP. I feel like at this point, since the rates are so disproportionate, that we need some kind of program for our students who are being suspended disproportionately. And one of the programs that I have talked about before is the Dooley program. And they are a coach program, they're a mentoring program, and they work on campus. They're very expensive. And the 7 years that I've been here, I don't think we've ever put a dollar towards helping our suspension and expulsion rates. And so I really feel like we need a budget for addressing those needs. And another question I have is, Ms. Olson, this might be for you, is I read, we've just been inundated by so much information, but I could have swore I saw an article from CSBA that addressed the American Indian disproportionate in learning, and that they are to be included in the homeless population and the disability population as far as the focus and services. I'm not going to say services, but the focus. So is there any way you can check on that also?
Sure, I guess I'm happy to, but I think I was thinking that what you saw in the CSBA, the kind of slick flyer that we all have a copy of it was just recently on disproportionate discipline. Do you think that's the article you're referring to?
Oh gosh, like I said, there's so many articles that have come through, but it specifically said that the American Indian children should be equal to where our homeless population is, like where we have those numbers. And I think that's a positive step because we're focusing on them, even though the number's so small. But that would be very helpful if we could find that out, because we have lost a year of learning. And I feel like if we're not focusing on keeping the kids in school all the time, they're just going to have more of a learning loss when they go in person in August. And I'd just really rather be proactive instead of reactive when that happens. And so, I think having a program, that's available to mentoring some of our kids, it might even, take some of the pressure off of the educators, because they're spending so much time on, one child that's having issues in the classroom. Also, I just wanted to share that one of my children also used the Dooley program, and it was very helpful. I'm going to just say that they helped him graduate high school. And so there's a different kind of support there, a different kind of trust when you're going to a mentor or a coach rather than a teacher or a principal or an assistant principal. It's just a different option for them so that they won't feel like they're getting in trouble if they're feeling a certain way or doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. And then I think that was all the notes I had. And then lastly, I just want to point out that one of the neighboring school districts, San Francisco, they actually have something written. I'll just read it. It says, additionally, the SSSR, that's the program they have, requires that prior to suspension of an African American student or any other group, that district data identifies as the most disproportionately referred for discipline, the school must contact the assistant superintendent or designee who will ensure that the matrix interventions have been exhausted and documented. The assistant superintendent will work with the site to identify available supports and interventions for that student. And then it says, see San Francisco Board Policy 5144, discipline, and Board Policy 5144.1, suspension and expulsion due process. And so I'm just going to say that I feel like we are at an urgent time with the children of color who are being disproportionately suspended in Pacifica School District, and that we need to do something. And so I don't want to just say yes to this policy and then have everything go on without any changes or without any effort to change things. And so that's all I have to say.
Great. Thank you for that. We will put your ideas in the LCAP and certainly will be to be discussed during the LCAP. You're absolutely right around the need for mentorship as opposed to punishment. And one of the things that we'll discuss with you when we present the expanded learning opportunity grant is there's something that's called out around specific support for students, either whether that's tutoring, mentoring, that's exactly, we actually have used Dooley's services before, and it was very successful at a time for a student that had a significant need. And so as we look at designing our tutoring services, thinking about how we can get employees that would be very much like the Dooley coaches. And then just one more request is I will look for what I think it was that you were referring to in terms of the Native American students support, if you will also look. And so we'll see if we can see where that. Perfect. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
I'd also be happy to add to that. I'd be happy to share additional information, particularly as it comes to how we have new resources through our new SEL curriculum and other practices that are really trying to address these and giving teachers and administrators as well tools for alternatives and options to really cultivate a positive classroom environment so that there are preventative measures. For instance, the restorative circles and practices to really address issues that are going on to be addressed in an informative, restorative way.
Okay, Trustee Doggett, did you have any questions or items for discussion?
No, I think Trustee Villalobos covered it pretty well for us.
Okay, Trustee Burkini.
No questions.
Trustee Steele.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to add on to, I think, clarify even the term disproportionate. I think sometimes that can get very vague, and the more concrete it is in the writing. So it's not just this verbiage that we throw out, like, specifying exactly how and where the disproportionality is occurring, just so the people who are, observing the data, know. Numbers are one thing, but, if the more focus that we can get on where exactly is the disproportionate, suspension occurring, whether it be school site, certain individuals, doesn't matter. I think the more focused you can get, the better picture you're going to be able to have.
Okay, so this item was for first reading, just for discussion. So thank you, Dr. Carrillo. And item 13, future agenda items.
Okay, we actually teed it up very well today when we talked about the information that we want to have in our LCAP. So on May 12th is that we will have a work study meeting around the LCAP, and those meetings are a little less formal than a board meeting. And so that gives the board opportunity to ask questions, to discuss. It would be helpful if you had any specific questions that we can help prepare for the meeting. But as we said, that is a slightly more casual meeting than a board meeting. And that's presenting the LCAP and the budget to you. Then we come back for an official board meeting where we would want to, that's where we would have the public hearing for the LCAP and other topics that would be on the topic would be bringing back the suspension and expulsion board policy. We'll have the contract for extended daycare and preschool services with temporary top tending. And that should we have any retirees, we would do resolutions of appreciation for the retirees. We will have public hearing for the LCAP, for the budget, and then balances in excess of the minimum reserve requirement. And I believe that's that's going to be plenty that we will have in the May 19th meeting.
I think we also have the land acknowledgement.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yep, great.
Just remove that one.
Yep. Oh, sorry, I didn't make it all the way to the bottom. There is extended learning opportunity grant also that we need to bring to you in May because it has to be approved on June 1st. Thank you. That would be great.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? Future agenda. Okay. We will adjourn at 9:01 p.m.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.